Yeah, so this was a crucial one that I should film. So if you're new around here, I'm Joe. I was in a pornography addiction for about 17 years of my life and was trying to actively quit for about 9 of them. I went through pay programs, I'd been through the NoFap arc, and none of the NoFap stuff was realistically working for me. I mean, I was one of the cases where, the NoFap stuff definitely didn't work for me. And so since 2020, I'd been on like 2 other paid programs, stopped that in 2024, and then in 2025 I met Tom Molyneux and Mary Paulus, who taught me the Beyond Compulsion method. That managed to get me stopped and stay stopped. I'm now an affiliate for them, and they taught me the framework of overriding a new mentality, installing, adopting a new mental position, using the right tools in those moment of urges to overcome them in the moment. And I never looked back since. But before that time, I was really struggling with pornography, really trying to figure out what was going on. And being in software, that's my full-time trade. And so what I was trying to think was, well, why am I still stuck in this? I'd been through a lot of reading, seeing different pieces of advice, even advice within the paid programs I attended before meeting Tom and Mary. And I felt that a lot of the advice and the methods that were provided to me were rather sort of convoluted to the situation. They were very convoluting to the situation, and they didn't really seem to get me to a point where I was able to stop. Some of these methods were sort of indirectly improving other areas of my life, but what I really wanted was to stay stopped with pornography, and it just wasn't happening. I just kept going back. I kept going around blockers. Meditation really wasn't getting me in the right mental space where I could sort of not think about porn. I'm sure a lot of us go through that. Stuff such as replacement behaviors, doing exercise in those moments of urges, going and looking into my past, doing extra reading, all of that stuff was giving me perhaps an insight into certain things, perhaps around pornography maybe, but it wasn't actually the core thing that was allowing me to stop, and most importantly, stop that mental conflict of shame, guilt, and all the other things that we feel after relapsing countless relapses. And so when it pertains to the software side of things, working in software, I feel like guys in software go through sort of a lot of thinking patterns and sort of mental stances which really isn't helpful for them, but that comes from a place, mental stances fed by the typical sort of information that we see on YouTube. Because on the one hand, like, I was just edging for hours in a session and then relapsing and really sort of forgetting everything that I learned before that point, all the videos that I watched, all the things that I read about what to do when I was like feeling an urge. It just didn't seem to work for me. And then, as within any porn addiction, it just escalates and you start watching more for longer. You start escalating in the sort of taste of material that you watch, and it just keeps going further and further, compounding, and it's almost as if the harder I try to stop, the deeper into the addiction that I got. And this is a very common thing which a lot of people who have entered BCA and come out of it successfully have also attested to. And so it's like a freaking nightmare to sort of navigate. But essentially what worked for me was going through this Beyond Compulsion method, BCA, led by Tom and Mary, going through the program, installing the mental stance needed to sort of overcome these hurdles in terms of embracing urges and discomfort in the moment, and then using the tool, learning about the tool to sort of handle the urges in real time. This tool being the 5-fact script. Keep on reading it, keep on implementing it when you're feeling those urges and discomfort, staying with the urge in the present moment. And it's just something that worked. And it's worked like nothing else has. And so this is why I'm becoming an affiliate for them. This is why I'm trying to get this information out there and trying to help guys get out of this problem, especially guys in software, because again, I'm just going to go over a few things that I feel that software developers sort of think about, or the mental stances that software devs sort of get stuck in. And of course, this isn't just for software devs, it's for anyone that's sort of intensely involved in a technical job, sat at a desk at a PC working things out. So the first thing I actually want to talk about is this sort of emphasis on the environment that you're in. So a lot of us, when we're sitting down on our desks doing the work, thinking, there's this sort of narrative that we get about getting out of an environment with triggers. Now the problem with this was, as I learned, is that it doesn't matter whether there are quote unquote triggers in your environment. The real bulk of the gauntlet here is that when discomfort and urges do arise for whatever reason at all, it doesn't matter what has sort of set that off. What really matters is, how do you handle that discomfort in the moment? How do you handle it when it comes up? And what mental stance have you got to be in to sort of deal with it, sort of deal with the mental noise that comes up? And we're so used to this. The self-talk comes up and it's so common. It's like, oh man, should I watch this scene right now? Should I not? Should I take a peek right now? Oh, I've got so many sort of hours ahead of me once I finish work. Maybe I can watch porn right now, but I can't really. There's so much debate going on in your head, and these are the critical moments where we want to get into a position where we're thinking rationally, thinking through the choice, making the right choice from a position of strength and power, and not from a position of running away. It's like, getting off your chair, exiting the room, because even if you did all of that, it doesn't actually resolve the issue. The desire is still there, and even if it left for that moment, lo and behold, a lot of the times we find that when we go back in our seat, that desire comes right back. That compulsive desire sets right back in. And so the key here is, how do you process that urge? How do you process that discomfort in the moment? And so because a lot of us are sitting down in our chairs and working for a long time, we feel that, okay, well, there's this dilemma of, well, this is my job. I got to be sitting in front of a computer for ages, and so I can't get up and quit my PC for that. Just isn't sustainable or realistic because we have work to do. Instead, the real question of getting out of the situation is more to do with, this is my environment. How do I stay strong and stay confident and powerful when I'm in this situation, when I'm sitting down working, and when an urge comes up, dealing with it from that position of strength and confidence, dealing with it, knowing what to do, not panicking, knowing how to handle it when it comes up. And the point here is that more repetitions of going through the urge, processing the urge correctly from a position of strength and power, rewires those cognitive pathways, those addicted neural pathways, and over time the problem just becomes less of a problem. And that isn't to say, by the way, that once you learn this method, and once you understand it, once you start implementing it, that you have to worry about the problem anyway, because you know what to do. You have the tools from the get-go once you learn and understand the method, beyond compulsion method, that is, not relying on willpower, not relying on running away, getting out of the environment, using blockers, using trigger avoidance methods. It's just handling the business, handling the discomfort when it comes up. And this was a complete game changer for me. Alright, so the next thing to cover is that moment when we're in our heads a lot. As software guys, like, we're trying to work things out in our heads all the time. Maybe we do the rubber duck exercise. If you don't know that, look it up. But you're in that sort of mode of logically thinking, like you're trying to think through the code you're about to write. So naturally, a lot of the focus is sort of inward within your head. And this is also like a habit that we tend to carry outside of work, outside of solving problems. So we're thinking in our heads a lot, and perhaps this sort of realm of thinking lands into the situation where we start thinking about scenes and images within porn. And we have like a term for this in BCA, in Beyond Compulsion Academy. We call it junky images. So when you have like a scene or an image appear in your head, that's a thing that's very normal and expected, and we address it within the program. And we have the exact tool, the same repeatable tool to deal with this stuff. All of these things, such as images, thoughts, and just feelings, when it comes to like the porn addiction, when it comes to urges, we deal with all of it in the same way, using the script, right? But the point here is that a lot of the time we sort of identify as, programmers or whatever, as engineers, we get into this thinking pattern of, well, it's just me as a person. I'm just the guy that's always in this head. This is how it is, right? And sure, the reality is that it becomes a lot less about that and more about how do you deal with those specific moments, those specific critical moments of compulsive desire, of urges, when they come up in a way that leaves you in a position, again, of strength and power, going through the urge, processing the urge correctly, and able to get onto the other side, making the right choice, choosing not to engage, feeling self-integrity, feeling a lot of good stuff, feeling all the good feelings of getting onto the other side of the urge, because a lot of us know how it feels. A lot of us know how good it feels to get onto the other side of the discomfort. The feeling that we kept our integrity after not engaging is a priceless feeling, and we want to feel that as much as possible. And with the tools within BCA, you absolutely can feel that, provided you have the right mentality, provided you have the right education and the tools about compulsive desire. Then you can go forward whenever you're in this sort of moment of thinking about images and scenes or stuff that you've watched in the past as they're expected. It's expected to think about them because perhaps you've been a kid, since you were like 11 or 12, and you've been at your PC for that long, and you've been using computers since you were that young, since you were in your childhood. It makes sense that porn came into the milieu and started making its place in your life, or for example, you just started to engage in it, which is the reality of the situation. But ever since then, you've been engaging in it. Of course, you've grown to have this dependency on a mind mood altering experience over all these years, and it's very expected, and there's nothing wrong with you for that. You just weren't equipped to deal with the situation of addiction later in life. You didn't even know how this was going to turn out. So yeah, nothing to worry about. There's a tool to fix it. You don't have to work it out. You don't have to feel like you're stuck in this problem forever. You can come out on the other side of this and feel strong, feel like you can move past this area of your life and stay stopped. So another thing I want to come on to is the fact that if you're a developer, chances are you've taken the logical approach of cause and effect to all this situation, and you've already perhaps gone on some discovery calls, or you've already been on some paid programs, and during that time you've sort of worked out, okay, well, this sounds legit, this doesn't sound as convincing, this strategy sounds like they know what they're talking about, this not so much. And that makes sense. I feel that as developers have that side of us which thinks through things logically, and things click into place when they make sense. However, for some of us, we also perhaps need to feel that there's a feeling behind all these things. Perhaps it's like a feeling that is coming up in our lives that's causing all this. Perhaps it's something in our childhood that's causing all this problem, which is the root of all this problem. And I think this is one of the sticking points that a lot of us gets hooked onto as a narrative, because it sounds like something logical. It does sound like a cause and an effect situation. Oh, it makes sense why I'm addicted to porn, because this happened back when I was a kid or something. What the Beyond Compulsion method did well for me personally was actually breaking down the actual nature of compulsive desire, that you don't need a reason to engage. It doesn't matter where it stemmed from. If you've built up those addicted neural pathways over time, what you end up with is these persistent thinking patterns which are rooted in place. It doesn't matter what the cause was, but it's these sort of pathways that have been already established which need to be addressed and taken care of and treated in the right way. And there's a whole sort of list of steps to sort of break down these thinking patterns. What's interesting is that there's a few angles and obvious layers to the untrained eye when we first come across this concept of what is actually blocking us on a mental level. For example, deprivation thinking was something I never sort of realized at first was like a blocking factor until Mary and BCA, broke it down for me and really addressed why this feeling of I can't watch porn, I can never watch porn again, is actually this mental sticking point that doesn't actually serve you. And so it's these nuances which I didn't even spot at first, but when it was brought to my attention, it really logically clicked into place. Like I was thinking irrationally a lot of the time, and I don't even blame myself for that, because a lot of the narrative that we sort of adopt from NoFap is that we can't watch porn because of this and that reason, which may seem true on the surface, which may seem actually rational on the surface, but when you actually dig into it, you know that it's actually a belief that just doesn't serve you, which is hard to conceptualize when you've been stuck in a pornography addiction for so long and you've been feeling those negative consequences for years and years and years. But once you actually break it down, you actually uncover these like hidden thinking patterns that you didn't know you actually had. And that was one of the useful things that Tom and Mary took me through when I went through this program, and I've never looked back since. You don't feel just stronger after it or more powerful after it. You feel a lot more mentally free after the fact. And very quickly what I noticed was the hold, quote unquote, of pornography just lessened. The hold it had on me just diminished very quickly after I just applied the principles, used the tools, stayed to first principles of the program, and subsequently staying on what we call in the Beyond Compulsion Academy the straight line, where you're stopped and staying stopped from a position of power and strength, choosing moment by moment what actions to take and staying in a strong mental position. You know what to do when an urge comes up. You know exactly what protocol to run when it comes up. It's very repeatable and practical and deployable when you're going through life. And you don't have to worry about urges again. You don't have to feel like you have to run away, get out of your work environment. You don't have to feel like you have to go for a run or panic. It's there. The tools are there for you to rely on, and they're very repeatable. Okay, so if you are a software guy, I'm hoping that some of these points are going to be relatable for you, because they were certainly in my mind before when I was trying to work this out, going through the NoFap arc, going through the paid programs, and hopefully this will relate to you and hit home somewhere. So for the devs out there, so you've been engaging for years and years, since you were young, and there's nothing wrong with you for that. So perhaps you were 12 or 13 when you started watching porn, perhaps even younger, around like 8 or 9 years old. Chances are you grew up in the West. Porn is very normalized. It's a very normal thing to sort of engage in. You grew up through high school and university, and it was just a very normal part of not just your life but everyone's life. And so when it came to the point of trying to stop, you realized you were in an addiction. You were faced with this dilemma of, damn, I gotta stop right now, I don't know where to start, and you found that you couldn't stop. It's a very common place nowadays, and it's something that no one prepared you for. And so I just want to say again that there's nothing wrong with you for being in this situation. This situation is the norm nowadays. So number 2, you've tried years and years of all these things trying to stop, tried to find the reasons, tried to find the right help, but all the approaches didn't address the desire directly. So perhaps you've tried replacement behaviors, perhaps you've gone to therapy, doing cold showers, doing exercise routines, and all this stuff, and the key theme of it all is that it doesn't address the desire, the compulsive desire, directly in those moments of urges and discomfort. And so number 3, the key here is to connect with the desire when it comes up in a correct, systematic way that covers all bases on a mental level. Again, a lot of the work here is done in the mental plane, leading you to a position where you can stop and stay stopped correctly. So number 4, at BCA, we have the tools, we have the education for you to achieve exactly that. And so one more thing I just want to leave you with, you'll find a link to book a call with me in the link below. And the thing that I normally say is, and I'll say it in this video as well, of course, is that if you're thinking of seeing what BCA is about and you're interested in perhaps finding out if you're a good fit for it, if you want to get on a discovery call with me, what I encourage you to do is have a big list of questions and a big list of doubts for us to go through, just to see if it's a good fit for you, just to see if the program will actually help you solve the problem and actually be something that's going to take you out of the situation for good. The calls that I want to get on and look forward to are the ones where there are some really hard questions to answer. Give me those hard questions, grill me on the spot, just so we know, okay, well, and if it's something that's going to help you or not within your personal situation. Having said that, being through 17 years of porn addiction, thinking that I could never be able to stop, wondering when I'd be able to stop, I'm pretty confident that it will work. And hopefully I can answer those doubts and we can get you in and have you stay stopped. Click on the link in the description to take you to the addiction quiz. From the results, you'll know whether you have a compulsive behavior with porn or not. You don't have to opt in for further interest in BCA, and we'll just send you over the test results to your email.